Hey everybody, KatMan here. Today we'll be looking at the RMS-179 GM II. This is an HG kit, my first HG kit. So far I've only built a couple of RGs. Just a couple runners inside and a small little book. I was surprised how small it was coming from RGs. More or less 3 pages of instructions. So right here is just a few of the paints and supplies I used. Nothing real crazy or out of the ordinary. Stuff you'll have around if you work on models or miniatures for the most part. I didn't have any batteries when I actually built it, so sadly there's no footage of that. But I did paint a lot of the details, so I started off with a little bit of gray primer. I like to thin the primer with just a tiny little bit of water, and it really doesn't matter what kind of brush you use if you're going over a big surface like that. I used Vallejo German Gray for all the dark gray, like the neck. You'll also see I used it to fill in around the joints. Just take your time and do a couple coats if you have to. I find a few thin coats tend to look a lot better. For the cameras, I just mixed up a little paint to the color I wanted, and I used a little glaze medium to thin it out. Just mess around with it till you get it the way you like. That color was for the gun. I just used a Q-tip and a little bit of thinner to clean up any spots I fudged up a little. Rubbing alcohol would work too in the case like this where you're using acrylic paint, which I was. For the battle damage, I took a pin vise and I drilled in however deep I desired for that particular hole. Once I got them the way I wanted, I took my X-Acto blade, or craft knife, whatever you'd like to call it, and I just used that to kind of bevel the edge and rough it up and make it actually look like it got pushed in by a round or a laser beam or what have you. I also use my craft knife to push in and more or less do the same thing, but make smaller holes to simulate small arm fire, or like the Vulcan cannons on the head of the Gundam. I also made some scoring marks and scratches with my craft blade. I also used my craft knife to chip some edges away and make them look like they got whacked by something or other. Just take your time and kind of look at it after you do everything and decide if you need anything else or not. Sometimes less is more, but really it's up to you. It can look the way you'd like it to. And I just use those techniques all over all the parts of the mobile suit until I had them the way I liked. I use my homemade paint booth for all my panel lining and airbrushing and things of that nature. Here's a quick shot of everything in there. I didn't have a great way to film it when I was doing all that stuff. And here's the mobile suit assembly. You know how it goes, you just snap it all together. This is the fun part when it's all done. I did panel line it all with Tamiya panel liner, and I used Vallejo matte varnish out of my airbrush. But you could clear coat it any way you like. You could use a rattle can or whatever you prefer. And there it is all put together. Painted details, battle damage. I did paint the battle damage. I used metallic paint inside the bullet holes, and I either used metallic paint or panel liner in all the scoring. There it is. It's seen some action, but it's ready for more. And while we're taking our last look at this here, I'd like to thank you for watching. You can follow me here on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram. And if you're into video game stuff, you can find me on Twitch. There's Gunpla and video game content on everything else. Throw a like and a subscribe if you're into this stuff. Leave a comment if you want to talk about anything. And until then, keep on building.